Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Now in this video I'm going to be wrapping up my top 10 champ series, and basically what I'm going to be getting toward is a top 20 champions in the entire game. I'm going to not be considering class, although as it ended up there's about 3 or 4 champions of every class. And in this video I'm not going to talk about the champions as long as I did in the class videos, just because everyone that is on this list I've already given sort of a deep dive in those previous videos. So I am going to put these all in a playlist if you want to go back and check out, Mystic or Tech or Cosmic or whatever to get a bigger take on the champions, then please do that, because in order to get through 20, and also I have a little surprise at the beginning of the video, it is going to take a little bit of time. Now I just want to say thank you to my entire community, because everybody left some amazing comments on my top 10 videos, and it really is actually shaping the way I'm thinking about my lists. I do think there were some champions that I oversold a little bit and some champs that I didn't include that really should be included if I do this again in 6 months. And yeah, the feedback from my community is always very valued, especially when it's left in a respectful manner, which of course it pretty much was about 99% of the time on my videos, and I super appreciate that. Now, before we get going into my top 20, I did want to open up a feature to the channel members. If you haven't heard, I've recently opened up a $5 a month membership to the channel, and I polled my members and I said, if there was a champ that I left off that you think should be an honorable mention in my top 10s, please nominate a champ and let me know if you want to, me to talk about them in my top 20 video. So with that, I had 5 of my members nominate champs, and I am going to briefly go over those champs and shout out my members. This is something I'm going to plan to do, sort of member engagement, maybe once a month. So it is another perk. If you are interested in becoming a member of the channel and supporting the channel, we do talk a little bit on the side, and you might be able to get some shout outs like this as well. So with that, we're going to get into our honorable mention list, and then we're going to go rapid fire through the top 20. So I do encourage you to watch this whole thing because I think it's going to be kind of fun. So with that, we're starting with our first honorable mention, who is a science champion that didn't make my top 10. And this one was nominated by my member, Prince Yoshi, and he nominated The Thing. And now I really like Thing. Now, first of all, he has some of the best sets of immunities in the game. Certainly when he came out, they were very unique to have both bleed and shock. He was also, I think, the first armor break immune champ. And then he also started the trend of science champions that were immune to nullify and fate seal and stuff like that. Obviously, we've got Overseer now, who did make my top 10. But the thing with Thing is that he is able to just take so many fights, whether it's hazard shift or something with, special burst lockdown that also has like the path 4 stuff on it where they go unblockable just because of the armor break immunity, and then certainly stuff like buffet and power snack. And he's so tanky with that SIG ability. It gives you a really nice safety net, but it also is something that can be used in everything from incursions to strike counter, and anytime there's a lot of attack, you can basically be triggering that protection all the time if he's really high SIG. And then, he is a little slow to ramp in some people's opinion, but it's actually not that difficult to throw a few specials and bank those passive furies. He's just a tank, and the immunities alone and the ability to ramp up the fight and the fact that he is very safe to play just makes him a very solid option for a lot of fights where you simply need the immunities and you need just a big brute to get through it. So I do think there's a lot of value for Thing, and even though he didn't make my top 10, he is just so steady and reliable and a really good rank up, whether it's for defense or offense, and do think he's a great honorable mention. Now, next up, we actually have Vega, who is one of my best friends in the game and has been so supportive of my channel and growth in MCOC, and I'm just floored that he's also a member of the channel. So Vega, thank you for your sponsorship there as well. And Vega actually introduced a really interesting idea, and I'm actually really excited about talking about this champion, and it is Sasquatch, who did not make the top 10 Mystic, but I'm really excited to talk about Sasquatch, particularly because he is a 7-star now, And I think the problem with Sasquatch is that most people were not willing to take him to the highest rank possible. I don't think there's a lot of rank 5 sassies out there, and there really aren't that many rank 4s. There might be like one per battle group. But now that we're seeing him at the close to the top power level, I think we're realizing that he's more than a defender. Now, obviously on defense, he has an insane amount of HP. He's got some pretty crazy regen. He has protection through his wrath stacks. And, you know, he's also got like the cold snap resistance and things like that. So he's just tough to get down, especially when Wrath of Tanarak just like stalls the fights and makes him super annoying. And you can barely do any damage during that entire phase because you're just trying to survive his assault. Now, we all know that, but the thing is, he can actually be a really decent two-way. When it comes to Mystic-based utility, his heavy attack places a stagger, and it is similar to like Juggernaut, who does that, where it's just this very reliable passive stagger that can control buffs. It's not that hard to land heavies, especially if he's in Wrath of Tanarak, you get the Unstoppable, so it can land in a different way. And additionally, in a Battlegrounds or War style health pool, you actually don't need to ramp his offense that much. You can do like maybe one special 1 and then one special 2. And if you get a little lucky and everything lines up that you're in Wrath of Tanarak with a few ruptures on the opponent, that special 2 is going to hit extremely hard. And, you know, there's obviously ways to kind of really ramp him up, tons of special 1s and get this like insanely big special 2. But for like the amount of health that we need to chip through, he's actually pretty good at doing it in a reasonably fast amount of time. And especially with the Battleground scoring changes where health remaining is so important, he's always going to have a lot of health remaining because he's very safe to play and has a ton of health. So I'm very fascinated to see if he actually does make it into the top 10 now that more people have him. Some people are even rank 2ing him for defense. I'd love to see some gameplay of that rank 2 sassy on offense as well. I think it's a great shout from Vega. Really good honorable mention, Sasquatch. Next up, from our member O's fan, I wasn't surprised to hear this, and I'm actually kind of excited to talk about this champion who just barely missed my top 10, and that's Punisher 2099. Now, O's fan has been sort of celebrating Punny 2099 as well as Captain America Infinity War for as long as I've known him, and those two champions are so reliable. They obviously have a synergy together as well, but today we're talking about Punny 2099. Now, if you run Tech Collar or Collar Tech, you can basically deny them from getting barely any power at all. And it's not the same as ability power rate, it's combat power rate. I think the problem is a lot of people will point out the weakness of Punny 2099, which is like, well, if there's some kind of ability power rate, like you're facing a Mangog or like a Doctor Strange or something, he's not going to be able to do anything. We'll get to that in a minute, but the thing is, in like 90% of the matches that you face, there's not some kind of ability power rate happening, and the fact that you can just control their combat power rate, it's essentially like they're close to power locked for almost the entire fight. You just throw a single special 1, you get his battery ramped up, you get that insane combat power rate reduction, and it's like they're power locked. It is very, very powerful because it basically means you don't have to bait that many specials. I talked about future Ant-Man being able to do that, but I do think for this one specific ability, Punisher 2099 is better. And then when it comes to the rest of his kits, his heal block is extremely reliable. If he has enough battery, which means if you're spamming your special 1s for most of the fight, it's just an automatic heal block. And additionally, even though I said he can't really control ability power rate, he does have the ability, I think when he's awakened, this ability comes out. They may have changed it to his base kit, but either way, I know he can do this, where if they get to special 3, it'll drain them with a tiny bit of power and then power lock them. Now, this will not infinitely proc, but it will definitely happen once in a pinch. And to me, when I think of power control is about baiting fewer specials and preventing them from going red, and he can do both of those things. That alone is great. He also has a very powerful special 2 with an armor break that I think will do a lot of damage if it's getting close to the end of the fight and you don't mind using it. And of course, there is a little bit of stun chaining cheese that you can do with the heavy attack if it's the right kind of matchup for that. Like if there's some kind of energize, you can have some fun there as well. So a lot of people don't rate this guy that highly. for some reason, but I do think like he easily is in my top 15. He might even be closer to 10 than other people, but I'm glad he brought him up. I do think Punisher 2099 is a great champion. He's just a workhorse and someone who's very reliable, a great generalist, and I do think he is a good honorable mention here. So next up, from our member Mobius, one of my oldest friends in the game. So super pumped to still be in touch with Mobius, who's just a great guy in the MCOC community. He brought up Wiccan. Now, Mobius is so committed to Wiccan that he has both a rank 2 7-star and a rank 5 6-star. That's how much this guy loves Wiccan. I know some of you also brought up Wiccan, so I'm glad that I'm going to get to talk about him. He was literally my number 11. He could have easily made it into number 9 or 10, though, in my opinion. He is an excellent neutralized champ. And while I think Tigra and Brintra are better overall, I do think there are times that you want to use Wiccan. He's got the unblockable stopping against Cosmics, he's got armor break immunity, and he's got immunity to reverse controls. That is sometimes utility that you need, and he provides it. If they're not immune to Incinerate and or Shock, he's just going to do a ton of damage, especially if there's buffs. His neutralize is very reliable, and the thing I like about him is he reminds me a little bit of OG Ghost Rider. I think that's something that Mobius has talked about, where like you really do need to be on top of your spells, you know, kind of like the judgments of OG Ghost Rider, where like there are lots of ways to play him. There's lots of ways to be super aware of where you are in that cycle during the fight. And, you know, because of that, he has a lot of control if you understand the way he works. I also really like that special 1 ability, which will regenerate you a ton. And he is, of course, pretty annoying on defense. Just bad things happen to you if you're not Incinerate immune. And even if you're buff immune, you can get kind of screwed by him. So yeah, Wiccan is a wonderful champ to rank up, especially if you have a duped 7-star. He's a phenomenal rank 2 candidate. Definitely could have made my top 10. I think of all these champions, he was probably the most shafted for not making the top 10. Like, I included Mojo just because Mojo's utility is so unique, and I already had a few neutralized champions, but I do think Wiccan could have easily made the list, and it's a great shout from Mobius. And then finally, our final member is Jeff, who brought up Nebula. I know he has a rank 5 Nebula, and now we all know her as a nuking machine, but you can't forget that she also has really good power control off of the special 1, and her robot countering ability is unbelievable. It can start before you even make contact with them. It shuts off all abilities against robots. We all know there's a lot of annoying robots out there these days on the war map, in content, etc. And if you use the special 3 rotation with her, you can really get a lot done without needing to waste your amp charges. So that was one of the biggest things about her rework, is that you're able to just throw that special 3 and then either chain it to special 2s or continue the special 3s and never lose your robot countering ability. She's very versatile. You can run her with recoil, you can run her without recoil. It doesn't really matter. It kind of just depends on the health pool. She has some really good synergies with like Proxima Midnight and Guillotine 2099, which will help her get the fight over faster, but she absolutely doesn't need that, especially as she's higher ranked. She is very unique and very, very good. She's actually quite scary on offense with the amount of health that she can get rid of. If you want to see her with like full recoil masteries on and boosts as a rank 5, going up and just seeing like what when she's fully synergized out with like Shuri and everything, and then you just throw the special 2 with 40 plus shocks, it's ridiculous. It's some of the biggest damage per second in the game, and she definitely deserves a shout. So anyway, once again, thank you to my members for the honorable mentions. And now I will put timestamps so that you could get to this faster if you wanted to. But I do want to go over my top 20, and I'm going to try to just keep it to like 1 sentence per champion, because as I said, I've already talked about these champions. So with that, let's get started with number 20. Number 20, Reed Richards. Incredibly solid science champion. Power control includes suppression and petrify. He's an absolute tank, easy to play, great support champion. Number 19 is going to be Valkyrie. She's an absolute menace on offense. She can absolutely kill the opponent without ever hitting them or knocking them down. On top of that, a great unstoppable counter. And the better you get at her, the faster you can play, but she's very easy to finish fights with 100% health. has access to Pierce and Bulwark, and just does a ton of damage through block. A phenomenal champion. Number 18 is going to be Ant-Man Future, one of the best new techs that we've seen in the game. Similar to Punisher 2099, he can get through an entire fight without them ever throwing a special. He's got lots of tankiness through his armor and through his glancing. He has a really cool ability where you can throw the previous special that you've already built to, which means more specials can get thrown. And his special 2, when ramped up, is absolutely nuts in terms of the red damage potential. Number 17 is Gallon. Gallon is a force to be reckoned with. He can just eliminate health pools even in a vanilla matchup. He's immune to nullify, so mystics pose very little problem with him. And then finally, when it comes to being able to be ramped up off of armor or some kind of power drain or power lock, he's an absolute house. He can get stuff done incredibly quickly. We all know why Gallon is on this list. He's number 17. Number 16 is Spider-Man 2099 Miguel, one of my favorite science champions, probably one of the most powerful buff immune champions, also has the strongest wither in the game. There's a way to play him where you only dash back in dex and then hit their block to do tons of rupture damage. His special 3 is really powerful with a slow and ramping up his damage. His heavy's place in exhaustion. He's just a workhorse and such an important piece of any battle group for war, and pretty good in battlegrounds as well now that the scoring changes have happened. Also some great synergy teams. Number 15 is Human Torch. There's not much to say about this guy. If there's some kind of energy damage, if there's some kind of mystic champion that you're fighting, or if you're just able to use that pre-fight, he is an absolute nuke. What a great champion. Excited to see if he's going to start being used again when whatever the sequel to The Abyss is when it comes out. Human Torch, number 15. Number 14, we've got another extremely powerful champion who's a bit of a nuke, but a little bit more nuanced, and that is Tigra. Now, the best Tigra players in the game are probably the scariest people. Automatically ban Tigra when you see her in Battlegrounds, when you see those really powerful players. Her neutralize is so strong, it comes off of every hit. She obviously has the unblockable specials that go all the way across the screen, and just if you really practice with her, get the special timing, get the misses together, she is one of the most powerful champions in the game with a ton of range. Number 13, we have Archangel. We're actually going to see a bunch of mutants in a row. Somehow they all ended up back to back to back with me, but Archangel is going to go here. We know the deal with the Archangel as well. If they can bleed, if they can poison, he's just going to turn off the entire fight. The higher his sig goes, the faster it all happens. If you make him a horseman, it's even more crazy. There's a reason that he and Torch are banned so much in Battlegrounds. It's because they just absolutely negate defenders. And that's all I got to say about Archangel. Now, number 12, we have another mutant, and it's Kitty Pryde. She does take a little bit of skill to play. If you do mess up with her, she's going to die very quickly. But even without the Tiger synergy, she is so powerful between the phasing and the ramping up of her prowess, the incinerate immunity, ability to just cheese misfights and things like that. Kitty Pryde is extremely powerful, and then when you put the full synergy team on her, whether it's bringing Nimrod or bringing Tigra or Ghost or something like that, she's pretty much going to negate almost any content. Stuff like Eternity of Pain and War, she's just eliminating defenders she has no business eliminating. If you're really good at Kitty Pryde, she could probably move even higher on this list, but she's my number 12. Number 11, another mutant, is Omega Red. He has the most unique playstyle in the entire game aside from Quake, in my opinion. You just want to stay close to the opponent. If you get really good at the short range parries, he's just an absolute menace on offense. Running with recoil almost all the time so that you get that death field going so early. And yeah, if you are the most skilled Omega Red player in the game, you can pretty much kill any champion with him. He also really punishes skills, and if you don't want to hit the opponent, you can basically Quake style with him in the back corner as well. Very, very powerful champion, especially a rank 5-1 running recoil masteries. I'm very scared of Omega Red on offense. Number 10 is our final mutant on the list, and it's Apocalypse. In my videos, I do talk at length of why I think Apocalypse is the number 1 champion. If If we're only talking battlegrounds, then that is a lie. But if we look at the whole scope of the game and, the immunities, the ability to not have to deal with purification, the ramping of the special damage, and the way he just works on teams and the amount of utility that he can counter, whether it's his weakness or his concussion, or the ability to just have despair healing taken care of and just be immune to various things like disorient throughout the fight and evade. He is just an absolute workhorse and one of my favorite champions. Definitely deserves to be in the top 10. Number 9 is Nick Fury. Now, he easily could go up on the list, but I do have to recall that most of the time you're in first life of Nick Fury, which is a lot less powerful than second life Nick Fury. And, he is a really, really solid champion. You put on 5 out of 5 deep wounds, you just throw light attacks and they're just going to die. And then obviously you have the ultimate safety net in all of MCOC. There's basically only Penny Parker and Toad or Danny Moonstar, if you get it just right, is the only thing that can stop his second life. Or, there's a couple other niche ways to do it, like Archangel or passive heal block, but those are a little bit harder to thread the needle. So he's always going to have that second life, that mulligan, and then his damage is just like, it feels like it's like quadrupled in his second life, and things are just going to die very quickly. So he is so OP. He does have bits of utility, like getting rid of debuffs and being able to bypass miss and evade as he gets ramped up, plus the unblockable. Those are easier to get in the second life, or if there's some kind of fury on you from something else in the game. Either way, I don't think I need to say much more about Nick Fury. He is still one of the most powerful champions in the game and comes in at number 9. Number 8, I'm giving to Nimrod. He's the OG mutant killer, unless if their name is Storm or Bishop. But other than those two champions, if they're a mutant, especially if there's prowess or regen, he's going to just eliminate them without even thinking about it. But he does have more range than that. There's a lot of prowess nodes ending up on the Alliance War map, and regen and prowess are just all over the place in the game as well. He's very easy to play. He's very tanky. He has the ability to power control a little bit and regenerate if it's a longer fight. Most of the time the special 2 is just going to kill them. His sig ability is so strong, the way it exponentially increases his damage. Not much else to say about this man. He is easily in the top 8. He could have made the top 5, and that's Nimrod. Number 7, we have a Mystic champion in Absorbing Man. If it's the perfect matchup for him, like Terrax, Annihilus, Hulkling even, Arcus, champions like that, he's gonna just effortlessly take them down. Similarly with most hazard shift fights, he's just gonna absolutely wreck it. But the fact that he has massive physical resistance or energy resistance, and he has massive physical burst potential or incinerate energy burst potential, plus all the different immunities that he gets, including poison immunity if you bring on the I-Bomb synergy. And if you really want to use him in just any regular vanilla matchup, there are ways to really ramp him up if you are a skilled player with the light punishes. He is just an absolute beast of a champion. I love his design. He's probably my favorite Mystic overall, and he deserves the number 7 spots. Number 6 is going to Ghost. Now, I didn't talk about Ghost in my tech video because I thought it was obvious that she was the number 1 tech. She can still just eliminate champions. If you run recoil, if you run power back boosts, it's so easy to just eliminate champions. Now, if there's some kind of hazard shift or biohazard and there's debuffs on you, it's going to be even easier to do so. But yeah, her phase mechanic, there's very little that can stop it in the game. Her special 2, when it's unblockable with the Wasp synergy, or if you can time it correctly, is so powerful with the guaranteed crits. If you land a couple heavies before, or you have some passive furies on you, forget about it. And then you throw on power back boosts. There's a reason she's typically been the most banned champion in Alliance War when she's not blacklisted. And man, what an insane champion. She's still relevant in this day. There's a reason that, she was the Legend Run champion for so long. I bet she still would be in today's game if Legends Runs came back. And there's not much that can stop Ghost. That's why she's number 6. Number 5, I'm giving to Hulkling, who I liked. DLL talked about him the other day, and he said he's just on the edge of being broken, and I do agree with that. He has so many buffs that just amplify his kit and make him an even better champion. His damage off of the special 2, if it goes unblockable, is insane. He's so good regarding the power burn and power drain immunity that he has against all champs, not just tech champs. Also, shock and poison immunity ain't so shabby there. He is just one of the best cosmics in the game. I think aside from Hercules, who is sort of his own class, he easily is the top cosmic. I really enjoy playing him. Hulkling is so versatile and so easy to play and so good in just a variety of matchups that he is my number 5. Number 4 is going to Kingpin. I probably rate Kingpin higher than some other people, but he's just an absolute house. And if I'm going blind into a matchup, unless if it's like Jubilee, I'm almost always going to consider bringing in Kingpin. The combat power rate increase, the damage increase, the fact that the special 1 puts on a weakness, as well as an ability reduction and degen, which almost nobody is immune to. And then the special 2 just does a ton of damage, and you get the easy openings from the unstoppable. If you throw on the Hood synergy, all the debuffs are gone immediately. If you throw on the Mr. Sinister synergy, you can belly bounce them in the corner. He's just the most generically OP champion in my opinion, of just like taking any random fight and ending with a lot of health. Now, I will talk about Hercules a little after, who is a little different in the way he can just get through content. But in terms of like, if you care about having a lot of health and tankiness throughout the fight and ending with close to 100% health, I'm almost always choosing Kingpin for almost any matchup because of his versatility and power. Number 3 is going to be Scorpion. He can bypass so much in the game because he's immune to so many different things. He has a ton of block proficiency, and the way he does his damage, you can pick your poison of how you want to do it, so you can get around any kind of immunities or resistances. There's basically nothing that can stop him. He's amazing against mystics. His Sig ability allows him to heal in any kind of PvP content. And then of course the synergy team just makes him pretty much the highest DPS in the game if you play him perfectly. But yeah, very simple to play, very tanky, just very scary on offense. I don't think he's going to be a 7-star for a while because of that synergy with the Venom and Agent Venom. But yeah, he is unbelievable. I think more and more people are understanding why he is the top science champion, and for me, he is a top 3 candidate. Now we get down to the top 2. It's going to be Hercules and Doom, right? So I'm going to actually do something a little crazy and put Hercules as my number 2 champion in the game. Now, he's number 1 if we're talking about saving items, because in any content, like I'm looking at you, Eternity of Pain, if you spam 20% revives, you get an extremely long and solid try with this guy if you're spamming revives because of that immortality. But on top of the immortality, which is what makes him probably the most broken, the way his damage scales, he gets both yellow buffs, precision and cruelty, but he also essentially gets an attack bonus with his feats of strength because it doubles, it actually 120% his damage when he's fully ramped up. And because of the persistent aspect of that, by the time you're cooking in the quest, he just has 120% damage, unless they're physical resistant, the entire fight. That also the bypassing of with the true sense for the unblockable and miss, really good utility against some pretty annoying defenders, and the stun chaining and the increased combat power rate that you can get. Going immortal, stun chaining, having that much damage, it's a recipe for disaster for quest designers because you can just spam revives and get it done. However, the thing is, often the reason he's so powerful is because you do die at least once, right? And then you can save items by not needing to heal and just, you know, blitz through the content using your small revives, never healing, and just YOLOing with the immortality, right? If I am considering like who is the most likely to win any fight, it's Dr. Doom. He is my number 1 champion in the whole game because his base stats, first of all, are insane. Extremely high attack, high crit resistance, high armor and high block penetration. That makes him a menace because his kit is so powerful. On top of that, he's got decent immunities with the armor break. As we talked about with Thing, that armor break immunity does come up every once in a while. And then additionally, he has the shock immunity, which, you know, it comes in handy at times. But the Doom cycle, if it's any vanilla fight, they're never going to throw a special. You're doing a ton of damage. You have complete control. You just basically turn off the AI of the opponent, and there's very little that can stop the Doom cycle. Now, I understand Hercules is potentially the most powerful champion in the game if you look at it holistically, but the reason I am picking Doom is if it's like one fight and I can't die in the fight, I'm almost always going to pick Doom. If it's a really scary war fight, you know, there's a chance that the immortality could fail. If there's some kind of like buffet or something, the immortality can fail. There's very, very, very little in the game that can stop Dr. Doom. He's just a confidence-inducing champ through and through. I will never tell somebody that they are wrong for ranking up Dr. Doom to the highest rank possible, because I do believe he is the most powerful champion in Marvel Contest of Champions. So anyway, man, that was a gauntlet of talking about champions. I hope you guys enjoyed this list. That's going to end the series for now. There will definitely be more content like this coming out in the future. Maybe check out in December or January. We'll be doing the next iteration of these top 10 videos. I hope you enjoyed this a lot. Have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.